right, great. Let's get started. Sorry for being slightly tardy. Welcome to the monthly workshop meeting of the Springfield Township Board of Commissioners. And we typically start with matters of our engineer, but we didn't have many items for him tonight, so we asked him not to come. So we'll get right into it. In terms of the agenda, do we have any Zoom attendees? No. Okay. And otherwise, everyone's here, right? All right, good. All right, I know folks are here for the baseball and the softball land use agreement. Any other items people are here for? Transition plan, okay. And is that it? Anyone else? Okay, all right, why don't we start with the land use agreements? And then we'll get to the energy plan, and then maybe we'll just go home after that.
Probably not.
Okay. Okay, so the agreements are pretty much in their final form. The only caveat is that with the baseball, so for both agreements, we're going to add a signature line for the travel programs. And specifically for the baseball, did you add that in there?
I have not had a chance.
Okay. So basically, it's going to go into effect immediately with Springfield Little League. And then for the Springfield Baseball Club, it'll be pending understanding that structure's in place. Their board, and we'll meet with them separately. And then that will be in full force for them.
Can I ask Michael a question? Is the agreement that's in the book the second version I sent you?
It's the version that included your grammatical edits in it. There were more grammar and.
Yeah, there were, but I mean, it wasn't the first one or the second one, because you asked me after the first one to try to not be so legally technical and annoying. And so I cut the comments in half, and I just.
It's whatever your most recent version.
Most recent, I think.
And that was the version that was shared with both little leagues earlier this month or late last month, whenever Emily sent.
And that had both travel programs as a
Yes,
party to that agreement.
correct.
Yes.
So they will be two separate land use agreements?
Well,
So they will be two separate land use agreements?
so that's all one land use agreement. I think the final form that you guys saw had both of those organizations listed on there.
Correct.
The only thing that wasn't there was a signature line for those separate organizations.
Okay.
And in us talking since December, we would want to see or speak with Springfield Baseball Club.
But isn't the understanding that we've kind of gone through, and I provided the organizational chart to Mike, that all decision-making power would be, I'm not sure if you're aware too, the several members of the new board are here as well.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure. I provided to Mike, doesn't the sole decision-making process and communication go through myself as the president? So I'm just confused as to why they would also need to be broken separately on the same land use agreement.
So first of all, in terms of communication, yes, I think we're fine with that.
Okay.
And the understanding is that they're completely separate organizations and that the Springfield Baseball Club or any travel program defers to the in-house Little League,
Right.
right? They're
Right.
secondary to that. You work closely together, you share field access, but they're also being extended the same rights of priority use of the fields via the Little League. So given what has happened to date, and given how that was sort of commingled and there were issues with that, we want to make sure that that's clean and separate.
So is that going to be protocol moving forward for all organizations or just Springfield Little League?
We would have to look at each individually. I would say that's best practice in general. But given that we're talking about that now, there's no one else we really have an unresolved trust issue with.
Well,
Let
sorry, go ahead.
me just to.
Yeah, go
Take care
ahead.
of your fears. The only signatory is you,
Correct.
okay? And there's one agreement that does include the
Correct.
travel program. And
Correct.
the Little League plus the travel program are
Correct.
defined as the association.
Correct,
and
right.
You're signing.
Right,
the association.
absolutely.
Great, but what we're saying is we want that separate out. We want the other
But that's,
organization signing as well.
so then do we need to go back to Parks and Rec? Because Parks and Rec was,
Mm-mm.
who's ever,
So can I, just for clarity's sake?
Yep.
If I may,
Mhm, absolutely.
there's one agreement.
Mhm.
right now.
Right now, Little League and Springfield Baseball Club will sign that one agreement? Is that what we're saying?
Correct,
Correct.
correct.
And the reason why is if you have entities, whether they're LLCs, LLCs, whatever they are, and they're not a signatory to the agreement, then they're not bound by the agreement. So anybody that's going to be bound by the agreement should sign the agreement, no matter what entity it is and what structure it is.
Right, and I just want to understand if this is like the protocol moving forward, because there are other organizations that share very similar structures and organizations, and I just want to make sure we've kind of gone through with our part, and we just want to make sure we're not taking steps backwards.
So I don't want to speak for the solicitor, but in my opinion, any organization that is using township, facilities or land agreement, and we've agreed to it, they should be a signatory to that document. And so if there's an LLC or however people are organized and they're using basketball equipment, they should be a signer, no matter what. And
Which is,
Yeah, so
If they're a separate
if they're a
organization,
separate organization.
right, if they're not a separate organization, then, then we can have their supervisory organization sign for them, but it's my understanding that these are two organizations, no?
it's not two organizations, and this is where I think we kind of like go back and forth.
Okay.
There is Springfield Little League that is the eminent domain of all players that exist, coaches that exist, anyone that exists in Springfield Baseball Club. So it is as though we are offering an additional travel component for our in-house players. It's not a separate pool of players. It's not a separate pool of coaches. It's not a separate pool of anything.
Separate legal structures.
Yeah,
Separate-
what you're saying in practice is true, but legally it's not. They are to be separate organizations. I think Little League International, I'm not by no means an expert on that. And
Well, I mean, so Little League International is comfortable, and when George was at our election, has a copy of our land use agreement that I reviewed with him, and he was, as Little League, our governing body, was completely comfortable with that because you cannot have Springfield Baseball Club without Springfield Little League. Can't be vice versa. There are pay-to-play travel programs where you can come from anywhere. Those are separate organizations.
Right,
These,
but those rights are conveyed by us and you collectively. That's why what you just said is true, not because of Little League International. Because we wouldn't have a travel baseball or pay club that would have priority use of the fields.
correct.
They have that via the Little League.
So that's, I guess, where I'm going back. So isn't this agreement with Springfield Little League, and the agreement between Springfield Baseball Club is with us?
Well, can I ask you a question? What's the problem with Springfield Baseball Club signing the agreement?
No, there's nothing wrong with Springfield Baseball Club signing the agreement. I just want to make sure that this is a practice that is being used in best practice and not just to continue this kind of cycle of moving forward with the Little League.
Again, and I don't want to speak for the board, but I think it's a best practice for any township, for liability reasons, for anybody that's using any facility to be a signatory on the agreement. Is that
So then we should expect to see that in practice with everyone else.
Well,
I would assume that it already is.
yeah, from a legal standpoint, I want to be clear that if the travel program screws up, we're coming at you.
Well, they have their own, correct, but they also have their own insurance policy. They have their own, I'm just saying in
That's for you
terms
and
of,
them.
correct, yes,
Are they going to be okay if you make decisions
absolutely.
for them?
Yes, and that is the way that it is structured when I explained it to Mike, is that any and all decision-making process is given solely to Springfield Little League.
Okay.
They have the first right of refusal, they have the rights to the fields, they have everything.
Okay,
In order for Springfield Baseball Club to exist, it has to work around us.
okay.
They cannot exist in perpetuity. They have to exist together.
Okay.
Yeah,
Then we can have them sign just so they know everything, but really the legal entity that controls them is the little, right?
I just feel like every time we ask, it kind of sounds different, like what the structure is, because it sounded like you're saying they're the same organization, but now they have separate insurance, like, and they're.
they've always had separate, we have to in
So,
order
like,
for them to be in the
it sounds like it's
facility.
two different Organizations. I mean, why wouldn't you just have one insurance if it's all one organization?
Because they use the facility at different times. They have to have their own insurance policy. They have to be covered inside that facility, especially during these winter months when we've got like different things going on. They have to have their own insurance
Why wouldn't it
policy.
be under the insurance that's purchased by Little. Did you want to come up?
This is Dan Whitmire. He's our vice president.
Okay.
And Erica Tomasco is also here. She's our sponsorship and fundraising coordinator.
The difference with the insurance is Little League insurance doesn't kick in until May 15th.
Right.
So this covers all baseball players before that. Because Little League is tournament, that's when that insurance kicks in for Little League. That's why this insurance is just a rider to cover that. So that's because it's the same kids playing, but it all varies.
Separate policy.
Right.
Yes.
Separate
It's 'cause
times.
Little League International does not cover the insurance for those kids until after May 15th.
What if there was no travel program? And Little League starts in March or whenever you start.
And there'd only be one insurance policy.
We'd still have to purchase one for when Little League was not in effect.
Right, but the Little League would, not Springfield Baseball Club.
I don't think so. I think
No.
If there was no Little League and
No, I'm
like
saying
a-
if there was no,
It's like a gap.
if there was no travel club, and we just had Little League Baseball here. You're saying Little League would not have insurance until May 15th?
It would have per,
We'd have to, yeah.
during,
for in-house.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but,
So Springfield Little League Baseball would have their own
but if
insurance
we're
policy.
using the
you're
facility,
using the
if
facility
we're using the
outside of
facility, we'd still have to have insurance that would not be covered by Springfield or by Little League International.
Right, so why doesn't Springfield Little League have its own insurance all the time?
And we do, for the year, that's a separate policy.
Okay,
We have a separate policy that kicks in when Little League Internationals does not. And then Springfield Baseball Club and Springfield Little League have a separate one in order to use the facility and to be covered.
Okay. We
so
may-
each
we may-
organization has its own insurance
For that time period, correct?
for when you need it.
But they're
Right,
different time periods.
Correct.
Okay. Well, we just have to be a little bit careful here because we're kind of saying two things. If they're a separate organization, they don't need to be under you. Legal, not maybe Little League International says they can. I don't know. I have no idea. But the association has to make sure that its policy, and it only says the association's policy in here, also makes the township an additional insured. And it doesn't say that the travel team has to do that, and they should. You know, if a little person gets hurt, we've got to be insured if there's a big lawsuit or something.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm gonna have to read this whole thing,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
So the previous land use agreements did not specifically spell out the travel programs. Is that correct?
correct.
So this year they are, and that was the final draft that everyone already saw has that in there in the top line. It's for both organizations. So we're tightening that up to make sure that both organizations are executing it. And I mean, the fact of the matter is they're really getting the same rights, whether it's flowed through you as Springfield Little League, they're still getting the same priority rights that land use agreement is going for. There's only a few land use agreements. So you said every organization, a lot of people are just on a simple permit. But should it be that way if there's other organizations that are enjoying those same rights? Yes. Now, we're not going to hold anyone up. If this is just coming up with an organization, they're going to have plenty of leeway. We could talk about it and see what best practice is. I don't know about those other parent organizations and what they require or don't require. But I do know Little League best practice is that they are completely separate organizations. That's why you don't even use Little League in the name. They're separate insurance, they're separate 501c3, they're separate bank accounts. In most cases, they're supposed to be separate leadership. And we know that wasn't happening at all.
Again, I can't speak for the past. What I can speak for is today. And that's why I provided, when Mike asked me, an organizational chart as well as kind of a breakdown of how things operate and how all decisions have to come directly to myself. And then Dan and I then have those conversations.
I just want to point out that when I'm finished modifying this agreement, it's going to say, for some things, you can make the decisions. And for some things, the responsibility is on the travel program because they have to provide a separate insurance policy for one example.
Okay.
Okay. And that's, I mean, it'll say, under most circumstances, the Little League makes all the decisions, but there's some obligations in here that apply to
Directly.
them. Direct.
Okay. So again, I guess my question is, so once you're finished, does it need to then go back to Parks and Rec to be approved
No,
or?
no.
Okay,
We can just do it.
I don't think so.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm just,
And honestly, I mean, as long as it's agreed to,
I don't care.
we
Yeah, I
can
mean, whatever.
be
you
done
guys
with it
wanna do.
Wednesday night.
okay,
Well, you can do it the board's okay with it, subject to final,
Yeah.
you know, a form that's in the final approval, solicitor's approval or something like that.
Right.
In a form satisfactory to this township solicitor.
So what are,
I'm sorry, do we have the corporate documents for both organizations?
I don't know.
Okay, we should get
Well, I
that.
know we don't have the 501c3 for
Baseball.
the baseball club. We were going back and forth on that.
Okay, well, we definitely need that because we really shouldn't be allowing use of public fields paid for by taxpayer dollars to an organization that isn't a 501c3. Okay,
But you're saying that the baseball club doesn't have that, like that comes under the Little League, correct?
So again, I am speaking from today. From what I was made aware today, the Springfield Little League won as of, I believe, this past year. So when we merged, the 501c3 and the EIN number is in the process of being changed to the official name. So right now it's operating, our taxes are filed under a certain one, they're made available.
You
The-
picked either Flowertown or.
Right, right.
I think it's under Fell, right?
I actually think it's under Orland. I think it's under Orland, but our taxes are filed Springfield Little League because that's our official Little League name. That EIN number. That EIN number and the Springfield Baseball Club are both not filed for this year. I was told today that they are in the process, they are with the accountant. Those EIN numbers, once they're cleaned up, will then become what they are supposed to be. That's the information I was given. Again, I am operating on the come along information. So
Was
that's what
Springfield Baseball Club filed in previous years?
I believe so, yes. Again, I gave you a contact. He would be the best person to ask because,
I'm happy to reach out to him, but you also made it clear that he very recently was named director.
well, I don't
Right.
think it's fair to like air quote him. Yes, he is the director. He's handling the evaluations and all of that. Yes. So, I mean, we came in here and had that conversation and, we wanted to make sure we were moving in the right direction. So yes,
My point being is he was just recently named that. He was not part of the most recent Little League board. So you being on the board would have better known of operations of Springfield Baseball Club
mean,
than someone who wasn't running it.
in reality, yes, but in actuality, I mean, what I've been dealing with for the past 6-7 months was not the finances and the 501c3. So if you want to give me some time and have some conversations and really get my information right, I'm happy to do so. But in reality, my goal was to move us forward.
Okay.
So
I mean, I can deal with that person directly too. But
absolutely. I mean,
Makes
that's
it
why I forwarded it to him. I forwarded it to him directly because, I mean, if we're having these conversations about information and whatever, like I wanted to make sure it's accurate when it's, being disseminated.
it sounds like a lot of trivial stuff. It's
It is.
really.
And that's,
It's-
we truly.
Here's my
yeah.
concern. I have seen the rules and regulations for the Williamsport Little League, and it's like a book like that thick.
We get a, yeah,
And I'm sure, if you can't
Yeah.
sleep at night, you read a couple
Yeah.
pages.
And it changes.
and it changes daily.
Right, and it
Yeah.
changes. My question is the travel team controlled by the Little League as a result of your discussion or your discussion with Williamsport? Because I'd be shocked, I'd be a little surprised if Williamsport wanted anybody but the Little League to be under the Little League.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
The Little League is so
Right,
proud of themselves.
right.
They have more lawyers than anybody does. And they're very clear about their jurisdiction. And it was my impression that they don't want to be involved in travel teams.
Yeah, I don't, in terms of not being involved, like they don't want anything to do with the day-to-day and the whatever. But again, in terms of like rules, regulations, and our governing body, those rules still exist in terms of like play. I'm not sure in terms of like managing and such, but I believe that's kind of where they step out. But Little League has made it very clear that like our goal in all of this is to figure out our structure and be able to move forward in like an effective cohabitation way.
Okay.
Yeah,
And all I'm saying is, I don't want to see you go to Williamsport and say, we're going to make all the decisions. We, a Williamsport Little League outfit,
Mhm.
are going to make the decisions for this travel team. And Williamsport says, oh, no, you're not.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
we still have that, like, you have to play in-house. If you cannot skip an in-house game to go to travel.
Right.
That's not allowed.
Mhm.
You have to play in-house Little League. So travel comes second compared to.
Yeah.
in-house.
I guess my suggestion would be respectfully, that you guys write whatever agreement you want to with the travel team. We're gonna write an agreement. Again, only my recommendation, you can change it for 3 entities, the township, you and travel. And you can write an agreement that says, we make all your decisions or whatever, but we're gonna have,
Can I ask you a question? Sorry.
yeah, well, let me just finish. We'll probably have virtually identical agreements between you and the travel team. And if you and the travel team want to say, you got to be under us and all that kind of stuff, you can do that. Go, well, I don't care. But I think that Williamsport is going to care.
George Davis and Aaron Weber have been wonderful in terms of like guiding us through this. I'm happy to ask them as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get
No,
you
yeah.
in trouble and have this whole thing get screwed up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I can
agree
reach
with
out.
that. I also don't want to get too complicated too. And
I can reach out to George tomorrow and just ask him, because this is not the first time. Like everyone has these
Well, a lot of
in-house
townships
travel.
don't have travel teams. I mean, we do. That's fine.
District
That's
22
great.
does, which is great. Like we're in a kind of very heavy White Marsh, Plymouth, Upper Dublin, around here,
Right.
Cheltenham. We're in a very heavy area, so I can reach out to George and ask him.
We can't be the only township that has a relationship like this.
No, not at all. But what I'm saying is we can let separate entities use our fields.
sure.
It doesn't have to be in one agreement.
Well, I'll tell you, I know for sure, White Marsh as a pretty recent, even though they used to have travel teams, they were like one-off per age group. And whoever had kids, they like kind of played. They weren't an organization like Springfield Baseball Club. They recently are. And they've adopted some of the things we talked about in December, where most of the board members are not the same board members, completely separate entities. They have access to the Little League schedule, backfill it in. But White Marsh does not have a land use agreement. It's all just verbal like it was before 2021 or whenever we first had a land use agreement here. 22. But the agreements are good to have. It's good for everybody. It's good for you. It's good for us to define all this. I mean, the agreement itself has never been the issue.
98% of it's not an issue.
So Jim, would you mind if I followed up with you tomorrow with just issues that you would like us to clarify so that,
Yeah, I just, it's very simple, I
Okay.
think. Ask Williamsport if it's okay if the travel team is under your jurisdiction.
perfect.
Okay.
I'll follow up with, yeah, I can follow up with
And
George.
if they say, yeah, that's fine, then makes my job a lot easier.
Yeah, because I mean, the travel that has existed, and it's never been an issue. So I can just follow up and ask him in that way. We're having that
That'd be fine.
conversation. Perfect.
And the only reason I brought this up is I was very, very involved in a different Little League. And they were Williamsport Little League. And all the boys, once they graduated from Little League, went to another township to play travel ball. Because they didn't want the two to mix.
Right. Okay. That's an easy conversation that we can have with him.
So can you tell us about like what is the new board committed to?
What are we committed to?
Yeah, in terms of finalizing just an example, I know the committees and everybody was working on
Mhm.
the new bylaws, new constitution, Springfield Baseball Club, like what are you committing to?
So our new constitution is ready to go. We then have to present that to our voting members, which is about 150 people. We have an open meeting where they get to review it, they get to ask questions, and then we vote on it in person. Our bylaws are currently being rewritten as well by the board, with feedback and information from the committees, from things that we've kind of learned from other, little leagues and reviewing their documents. That's probably the most important thing because those are our guiding documents. Other things we're really committed to is growing our program. Our program is taking a very different shape now that we have open boundaries. So we're really making sure we're focusing on our township kids and really offering them like the early registration to kind of draw them back in. And we're working very closely with Little League to monitor we get requests. We want to make sure we're growing our program, but in a safe and protected way for Springfield. The other thing we're really working on is communication. We meet tomorrow night as a board. One of our goals is to get a general email out to our whole public, introducing our new board, talking about the new committees we want to make sure and putting some structure in place. A finance committee, a grounds committee, a sponsorship and fundraising committee. snack stand committee, if you know anyone that would like to take over the snack stand. But really kind of getting back to baseball and getting back to having conversations with our families, getting to know our parents and matching them with kids' faces and really kind of getting back to the kids and the core of it. So we're really focused. Our board is phenomenal. We met last week. We were able to pick positions through conversation and who wants it and who doesn't. And it went really well. So I think we're in a really good direction.
Great.
Yeah.
And the Constitution, that was pretty much ironed out prior to this. Are you making changes to that than what was agreed to?
The Constitution was somewhat ironed out. We then presented it to Little League, and Little League really wanted us to come out with our Constitution, not a copy and paste, not a move stuff around. Like they really wanted us to focus on where we were headed with the league and what was important to us. We worked on the election process, what the regular member definition was, things that kind of shape what the future is going to look like. They also provided us with a couple of like exemplary constitutions from leagues throughout Pennsylvania. So we were able to look at those. We did take a lot of the feedback from that governance committee and work it into that. But we also want to make sure we're keeping it simple so that anyone who looks at it on the website isn't going to be like, I don't even know what I'm reading. So we really kind of worked on the language and making it accessible.
Okay. Great.
And those will be posted on our website. That's one of the things like the communication committee worked on previous months is to ensure that, you know, if someone has a question, they're able to just access those documents.
How about, so I get the sense that, and this is not a slight, I know you're into it, and you're doing all sorts of other things, that what the best practices for the travel team should be. Because I know we were talking about whether it's under or subsidiary or something, and I know you made a motion, I don't know if you know more about this, I'm by no means an expert, but I guess I'm looking for a commitment that the best practices are going to be put in place, because really the trust issues arose from that commingling of those two groups and people feeling like travel team really dominated, especially with that facility that was built. So I guess I'm looking for assurance that best practices and we'll go into that Springfield baseball club, because you're getting all the rights.
Our
It shouldn't
best,
come down to one person. There should be a board. There should be.
yeah, no, our best practice is first and foremost to prioritize our Little League families. I mean, that is first and foremost. And in terms of the travel program, we have first rights. The Little League program is the one who is calling the shots. And if it doesn't work for us to give up a space or give up a field, it's not going to happen. I mean, that's why I keep saying we really got to get back to the baseball. Like we've kind of lost focus of the kids and the baseball and the coaches and that's really where our focus is moving forward. Are there going to be bumps along the way and conversations to be had? Absolutely. But we have to get to those conversations before we can kind of prepare for what they look like.
Just say one.
Yeah.
Just one quick
Yeah, yeah.
question. That thing about you decide who the fields and all,
Mhm.
that's not in here, you know.
Well,
So you might need something in
Sure.
writing with them.
so our program runs Tuesday to Thursday.
Tuesday or Thursday.
And then all of our games are on Saturdays. So it's always in the past work that they work around us. Their games are only Fridays. And if they're evenings, they have to travel to somewhere with lights. And Sundays, because we don't have any in-house games on Sundays.
Okay.
What about rather?
This is
Yeah.
not our concern. This is your concern.
No,
Yeah,
and
I don't think we need
absolutely.
to put that in our agreement. That's really for you guys to run and do.
Yep,
And if you're not doing it, then your own membership. would bring
absolutely.
it up.
Yeah.
But instead of being sort of co-signers, maybe there's something that says the rights for Springfield Bay Club are given exclusively through Springfield Little.
Yeah, what I'm gonna have to do is go through the paragraphs, and 95% of the paragraphs are gonna say you're in charge.
Yeah.
But 5% of the paragraphs are gonna have to say you both have to do X, Y, Z.
Okay.
That's all. Okay. Pick up the trash.
I do have one more,
I know. The porta potty is gone.
I do have one more concerning question.
Yes.
It was brought to my attention that the person that the league deemed responsible for the plane incident remained a member of good standing as a volunteer and was eligible to vote. Is that accurate?
So we didn't deem, and I mean, we didn't deem anyone responsible for the plane incident.
And that was the communication that went out. So that it seemed to be the responsibility of one person, and that person is no longer.
And that was in your
a
statement.
member of the club.
So again, that is before my time, so I can't speak to that.
It's still the same organization, and it actually went out when you got out, you know.
It did not. I actually was not on the board when that went out, nor was I part of that incident. I can't speak to anything that was prior to me. I can only speak to what I've been involved in.
But it's the same organization. So the organization sent out a communication. You weren't there. It's not like it's a blank slate when you come on and start, like.
Right, but I can't speak to what was said or what was decided or what was, I mean, that's not my,
Yeah, but you were heavily
Session of
involved. I mean, you were,
at that point, I was not. I was running the snack bar.
right, when we met on the night of, I think it was June 7th, prior to our June workshop meeting, that had a whole bunch of people here and Tom McGee spoke. You met privately in that group with us where we talked about this in detail.
Correct, and I was not on the board at that time.
Right, but you were heavily involved.
I mean, I was
Right, and
running
the-
the snack bar.
In the weeks
You were-
following, you were
you were
almost
aware.
the sole communicator.
Right, but I
Of the
can't
league.
speak to any communication or decisions that were made by that board.
Communications that you received, communications that went out from the organization that you're now helming, and
Right,
determinations that were made by your organization. Are you saying you reversed the decision when you took over the reins?
what decision?
The decision that this individual is responsible and no longer a member of the club?
I don't believe that was ever issued.
I mean, that was my recollection of the communication that went out, saying that it was deemed to be the responsibility of one individual who is no longer a member of the club.
But I don't think it named an individual or said that he was
Never
no,
named it,
No.
never named the person, but
but again,
only one person
okay,
left the board.
but
So
again,
it's like, you're dealing in semantics, and to say like you don't know or nobody knows, like everybody knows.
no, I
And,
can't
you know,
say that I
communication
know.
went out.
All right, I have this is the
They can,
June 22nd email. It was put up by Springfield Little League, Tom McGee.
Mhm.
With respect to the banner incident, based on the information gathered so far, we have reason to believe that only one of our board members was responsible for carrying out the act. This individual is no longer on the board and no longer holds any coaching or leadership roles within the league. We acknowledge that certain board members should have spoken up sooner after the incident and admitted to knowing who was potentially responsible. That's pretty clear from the league saying they know who's responsible.
correct, but
It was-
the
it was
league
re-
at the time was not me. So you're asking me to answer a question as to a
No,
state,
we're not- Because the
No,
determination was
hold-
made, the only way that changes is if you made a decision opposite.
no, because I wasn't on the board. So there's a whole process in terms of good standing and things within that fall under the laws of Little League. I was not in those meetings, nor was I part of those conversations. So to say he was in good standing and, wait,
But I
hold on.
mean,
Hold on, to say that he was in good standing and that I came on and reversed something or did something is totally kind of,
That went out on June 22nd, is that right, Jim?
June 22nd, yeah,
So
Saturday
then
afternoon.
when did you join the board?
probably towards the end of like summer travel. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's probably July.
So if I recall, and I don't know the details because nobody from the board would speak up about the actual details of it, but he was either removed or resigned the weekend of Father's Day. So it was before this letter went out. I
Okay,
think it was Sunday, June the 12th is what I was told. That there
Okay.
was a meeting of the board and he was, I'm using air quotes, because I don't know if removed is the right word. I don't
right.
know if there was a vote or,
And I wasn't there, so I can't speak. That's what I'm saying. You're asking me questions for something I wasn't there for. You're asking me to like retell and well,
I mean, you sat in this meeting with us in the beginning of June, like you were involved. It's not like you came flying in.
But I
from
wasn't
another
in-
state.
Brendan, but I wasn't in board meetings. I wasn't in votes. I wasn't in decisions. I was heavily involved and invested as I still am today, which is why I'm,
I think it's being pretty disingenuous to say that you don't know who this individual was, that this individual is no longer part of the organization, and then suddenly he's a member of good standing voting at your election.
well, I'm sorry that you feel that way, but there are processes and votes and conversations that took place that I was not privy to. I mean, again, I've said it 100,
Like 5 or 6 months of you being on the board and being heavily involved did occur. And nobody's talking about this. It's like the single biggest thing that is driving all of this activity. And you're saying that nobody talked about it?
but I think
whether this
those
person's a
that are
very good
involved
standing
are focused on baseball. And we've really,
Well, it's all
because
intermittent.
I understand, but we
just say
can't,
Focused on baseball when this is a major issue.
but I can't change the past. I can't. I mean, I can't change the past. I can only deal with the future.
Right. And
which
this-
is why we're here
you're dealing with the
tonight.
Future, and this individual's voting in the election. And do you
Again,
not see how that's problematic?
but you're asking me questions about a process that I was not present for. So I don't know.
You're in the role for 5 or 6 months.
I'm not. I really will. I have not.
Said person will not be.
I mean,
This year.
you're asking me about
That's
a
what you guys want.
conversation. I mean,
But I'm talking about at a minimum, August, September, October, November, December, when you're on the board, the vice president on the board.
correct. And I've
Saying that
spent
at no
September,
time- at no point in
October.
Time, did anybody think about whether that individual should be considered a member in good standing?
During that time, I was focused on 4 committees, our membership, our, facilities agreement, our land use, coming to Board of Commissioners meetings. I mean, you're asking me a question that I'm not going to change my answer to. I was
Yeah.
not.
Oh,
I don't-
So, Jim, is your intention in bringing, sorry, Jim, like, is your intention in asking that question or bringing that concern to light? Can we clarify what it is? We don't get into the weeds about why we're talking about it.
Sure. I mean, the biggest thing, and we've been consistent in this, is trust.
Mhm.
Again, the agreement and the semantics of that, like, we don't want to be involved with that. When I say we don't want to, it doesn't mean we won't. We feel like we need to. But we're only even talking about the incident because it wasn't resolved. The league did not take proper action from start to finish. The fact that I even bring it up now is because I heard the guy that the league itself deemed to be the sole person responsible somehow managed to stay in good standing this entire time and is voting in the election. Like, it's
again-
unfathomable. It is unfathomable that it got to this point.
But
And
again,
I know
Jim,
you're saying that.
you're asking
what you
me
were-
about a-
hold on, let me finish.
Okay.
You're saying what you were working on, you replaced him as the vice president. You were the vice president of the league from late June until normal circumstances.
I didn't hear the last part, Jim. Sorry.
Rather, in normal times, we're not even talking.
Got it. Okay. I didn't hear the last part.
But our baseline, I think, goes back to, again, we want to make sure we're dealing with people with trust. And if this is happening and people are operating in the shadows, like, that's just, it doesn't help trust.
There's nobody operating this.
Can I give you 2
Yeah.
cards so you can,
Thank you.
and I won't be there in the morning,
Perfect.
in the afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a functional question about the building, now that we're talking about potentially an additional insurer. And there's a building on our property. Would they also be, I guess, is it because of the timing that would be insured by a different party? Like SBC, the Springfield Baseball Club would insure it with their use, and that's. And I ask this because I'm just foreseeing a date of some future date potential. I hope that there's not enough money to keep the lights on at the building or something like that. Like, who would keep the lights on and what would be our responsibility? Just want to know, since it affects our.
Under the land use agreement, it is our responsibility to keep the lights on. I forget, you have to pay for the electricity.
Yeah, I think we pay for
something.
the electricity.
Right.
Yeah.
And we do, the township has insurance for all its properties and all its buildings. As long as the broker understands, there's pitching machines
Mhm.
and they can throw a baseball pretty quickly in those buildings. And if that is okay with our broker, then that's okay with us.
I think it specifically excludes that
It
building.
excludes that building.
Well, see, I didn't know. Okay. So that building is excluded, but it's on our property.
On our property, but.
The
they
land use
have
agreement discusses specifically the insurance
on that.
on the building.
Right, but it only talks about one part. And if, to the extent it's used by 2 parties, we may have to clarify that because.
Well, but if we switch it where the rights are conveyed through baseball, Little League, kind of
Well,
like a sublease situation legally for that.
as long as they're okay with that and the
Yeah.
insurance is adequate and covers all the time periods.
And I believe too, like, we just had to renew our documents with Little League. We had to provide them and we listed, we list Springfield Township on our policy. We sublist, I don't know if that's the right word, other entities, just so that,
If I could just be clear why I'm asking, I'm just thinking through this as a matter of all the challenges and reasons and what have you. Part of it is just the public wants to be understanding about what's going on, who owns the property. People are like, what's up with that building? Real casual type of conversations, but they have nitty gritty details involved with them. It's not so easy as who owns the building. Well, actually, it's our property, we don't own the building, et cetera. No one really wants to not that they don't want to know, but that's not what it is. It's about, okay, dollars are going into this structure, right? People want to know when they sign up for baseball. Okay, actually, when you're signing for baseball, yeah, you're paying for the fees and you're covering the caretaking of the land, the caretaking of this building, et cetera. Again, just as a resident who's never been really engaged on stuff like this, I would get, my thinking is, well, what should happen if that, went into disrepair? Is it an SBC who's already in this land use agreement and Little League whose resources we would have access to help assist in repairing that potentially? That's just my question.
I believe they added,
Is that, does that
Oh,
make sense?
if that building is specifically excluded, then it becomes double important for us to review your policy to make sure pitching machines, for example, are not excluded. Because if some child got hurt, we'd all be in a lot of trouble, financial trouble anyway. So we just need to make sure everybody's covered.
Okay.
So make sure all the entities are clear for reasons like that, and so that everyone understands what you're walking into, literally, physically, what you're walking into. And maybe for those who are, donating to a building or whatever, understanding what the situation is for members of the public who didn't understand that. That to me is where my line of thinking is, and hopefully this agreement will clarify that. If there are multiple entities involved, that'll be made clear with all of these legal rigmaroles, which we don't necessarily need to move out in this forum. That's my
It's really a reason why it's so important not to let anybody, a friend or something
Oh, yeah.
like, use it for half an hour. Well, use it for half an hour, somebody gets hit in the head with a baseball and, there's a big problem.
No,
Because
this is why-
someone a whole lot meaner than me is going to read that policy with a microscope to see
No,
if
which
there's
is
any
why
way the
it's
insurance company
only
doesn't have.
Springfield
right.
kids in there, that's the only people allowed in there.
And I would also say I would want assurance that the new board is really taking seriously the use of that facility. That it's proper, the in-house kids are getting their thing. We know there was money flowing through there that shouldn't have been flowing through there, probably through the travel teams. And that was never addressed by the previous board. It was never clarified. And that's just so, you have to be doubly transparent to make up for that.
Mhm.
Sometimes you got to pay for the sins of your predecessors, but that's just how it is. Great, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Go,
Carolyn.
No,
You're not
one
done.
more question.
Sorry.
real quick.
Oh.
Logistical, like land maintenance, things like that. You have that lined up. I know some of the previous board members did a lot of the work
Yes.
in the facilities. I'm just curious.
That is on our top priority for tomorrow, considering the weather today and the maintenance of the fields. And I know I talked to Emily today that the fields in terms of December 31st to March 1st are not maintained. So that does fall on us. So we would have to make arrangements for that, I guess, through the Little League. Excuse me.
What does that mean? Like you can hire somebody?
We would have to. I mean, we were, incredibly lucky to have people that were able to maintain and upkeep during the day. And especially, I know the middle school is also looking to use the fields. So the maintenance and the upkeep of those fields is now kind of doubly important. We're going to have to, I guess, figure out what the next best avenue is for that in terms of upkeep. And, it's a big complex to maintain, and then Marlowe as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
It's going to be, I mean, that's a big undertaking just because we've been very lucky in the past in terms of, members and their skill sets and their time of day. And it's, so that's why we joke it's like another full-time job. So.
And I will say, getting the programming that you provided recently in terms of specialized coaches and different programs that have, off-season programs has been really, real nice.
Yeah.
I've seen that really step up.
Yeah, our families are really excited. I mean, it's been really great, I think, for a lot of the kids to get in there and be able to keep working on their skills through the winter and have a place. It's really been great. And, kids are excited to see each other and families and, parents are really excited to be back. So we hope to keep growing that.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal facility. A mom was in there last night and she looked over and she was like, this is amazing. So we want to make sure, people really utilize the space.
And it's noticed, that you really step. up
Thank you.
the
Yeah.
Diversity of off-season programs.
Thank you.
We plan on doing the coaches clinic to help coaches actually, if you never played baseball, you have no
Coach.
idea what to coach. Have them help coach, do coaches clinics, a few more player clinics. And then we're gonna do a first aid CPR class through the league. So we gotta figure out those
Great.
details and go from there.
The open borders, is that like anyone can play any little league
So-
now?
4 to 7. So like if you
Oh,
have a
okay.
4-year-old or 5-year-old, because T-ball's 5, and you have 12 older brothers, all 12 of those older brothers are now eligible to play wherever that 5-year-old goes.
It does
within
it
a 50
expire when they get to 8 or you grandfathered in?
No,
soon
as long as you
start.
can stay. So it's a 50-mile radius, and you would not believe the number of little leagues in 50 miles from here. We've gotten about 12 so far. And we're kind of holding them because we want to prioritize Springfield kids.
Is that just little league or do like the Cal Ripken
No, that's
do that?
Just Little League.
Did that.
Yeah. So the unlimited brothers and cousins that come,
Sounds complicated.
yeah.
Gonna get into people trying to make super teams and all that.
Right.
for little
Going to
league.
fields and being like, oh, your little brother plays T-ball. We'd love to have him. Bring your 3 older brothers with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've really worked though with the registration process to kind of monitor like the in-house versus the exterior kids to balance out we never want to get to a point where I know. Our Springfield kids are on a wait list while we're accepting out of town.
But no name, likeness and image contracts?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
You wait, yeah. We'll have T-ballers, so,
Wild.
yeah.
If I can make one suggestion, this is for you as opposed to them, have your attorney or counsel or whatever. I would love to see you have this agreement when it's finished, stapled to your insurance policy.
Okay,
Okay, so that they know your maintenance responsibility under here isn't limited to your season,
okay.
as you know.
Yeah.
So if the insurance company says anything you do or fail to do or whatever under this agreement is covered,
Okay,
then you're much safer.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, do you want to fit?
Good evening. I'm Alice Lesnick, 105 Erdenheim Road. I have never been a Little League parent. I ran the swim team snack table for several summers, and we had a ballerina. So I understand with my whole heart the blood, sweat, tears, and love that goes into all kinds of youth sports and youth engagement. Unbelievably important. And we've had lots of neighbors, we've lived here for 25 years, who love Little League. So I wanted to start with that. And then I also wanted to say, so I'm like, why am I even following all this? I've been following this story since June with a lot of interest. And I'm like, well, is this really my business? But I feel like it is because I actually want to say something, and then I have a couple quick questions. What I want to say is I actually don't think the time has been wasted here. I mean, I didn't sit in all the things, but I've listened on Zoom or to the recordings. And this is like our town square. It's almost the only town square we have left. We don't have a newspaper anymore in Springfield. This is a place where issues that pertain to all of us as a public community are addressed. And accountability all the way around is assured. So I think there have been discussions of Little League's accountability, and I would say accountability looks forward, like you've been saying, and it looks back, that it's important to remember some things and take account of them as part of the process of going forward. So I'm sure everyone is behind the organization and wishing it well and wishing you to go forward and be free of what was, to at least what I could tell, a very ugly, unfortunate, and hopefully unique incident. With that said, though, it brought to my mind how we have an opportunity when such a thing happens to grow and also to learn that it's actually often through painful conflicts and mess that the lotus, no mud, no lotus. You have to have mud to have growth and even, heaven forbid, enlightenment. So we don't want to be known in our township for this kind of it looked like bullying or intimidation or threat. I would have been quite terrified if I were that family or their friends. I would have loved to see a very open-handed apology. If, I don't see any harm, and we all make mistakes and we get carried away. We do weird stuff. It's a human thing. I sent an email yesterday and I thought, why didn't I just put it in drafts and wait till today? So I appreciate the fact that there's been a tussle and a tug and a wishing for more and better. And I think the fact that the fields are public and the community wants standards that are good for all of our kids and, God willing, someday grandkids, gives us a reason to come together. So I just really want to appreciate that people have stuck with this and actually say, maybe we could learn something from this. Not that this is going to happen again, but there'll be something else. There will be. So how do we get ready for that and approach that at a higher level because we went through this? So that's my one question. I'm asking if anyone here who's been part of this could speak to that. What is on the platform now? What has been elevated so that next time the public good can be better and perhaps more quickly served? Because I recognize your all's time. And secondly, in terms of accountability, both of our elected leaders and of our youth organizations, what does the public need to know about what the review is going to be like? Is this land use agreement ratified or renewed each year? Is there a process of assessment? In my work in higher ed, assessment is the name of the game. What are the processes that are going to help raise the bar for our wonderful township? Thank you.
Thanks, Alice. I'll address your first question, which I think was more of a statement, but I agree wholeheartedly. As uncomfortable as some of these conversations have been, we're already better. Like, it's already worth it, as long as painful it is. Like, I think the league is already better, and just more aware, in tune. People are more aware. So none of it was in vain. I think all of it is better, and will continue to get better. If good people keep showing up and putting in the work, I have no doubt the league will be way better than as if that's never happened, which is, I guess, the most optimistic way to say it. But yes, the agreement will get looked at every year. In normal years, we're really just updating a couple things to make the agreement better, but we hope we're excited for the new board, with people who put time in, will, just do their thing and make it better. And we're certainly here for when issues get risen to the level of public concern, for sure. But we want to give that league their own autonomy too, and allow them to heal it. Because it's not gonna happen overnight, right? You don't have a culture in place that needs fixing and one election fixes it. No, they got work to do. So we'll revisit it every year and be supportive.
Thank you.
You got it. All right. Anything else on that, on the agreements? Oh, yeah.
Stand here.
Yep.
Yeah, Jeff Cooper. I'm the new president of softball, Little League. Look forward to working with everyone here. I just didn't know if there's any questions for softball. I did have a recommendation for 19B in the lease agreement. I sent some language over. I just thought, I don't know, anyone who has,
Okay, yeah.
so fully supportive of 19B. I totally get why it's there. I can read you what I sent over and basically,
I'll look at it in connection with
okay.
everything
Why
else.
don't you let him read it, Jim? That way you'll
okay.
hear what the.
I just thought it was vague of like whose responsibility was to handle
Well,
any
we
type
should
of
tell
incidents.
everybody that 19B is under public complaints.
Correct.
And your suggestion is,
It is the responsibility of Springfield Little League Softball Board to investigate all inquiries of bullying. Any individuals banned from the property shall be shared between both parties of this agreement. So I was mimicking the
that-
language we have at 19A, bringing it down into 19B, but putting the onus on our board to investigate anything that happens.
I don't
Does that
I
make
don't have an
sense?
issue with that.
In
Okay.
fact, I prefer you to
We had
invite.
discussed this in
Yeah.
Parks, sorry, before, we had
Yeah.
discussed that one in Parks and Rec, so 19B is copied and pasted from Little League International. And then there was some discussion as to like, who does that fall under and how is that communicated?
Okay, when you say 19B, you mean 19B that this gentleman
Yep,
read?
yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And just two other points, transparently, our travel program is a rec travel program. It's run together with Little League. There's a small portion of our board that oversees the travel program. So similar to what was being asked before, just that's our setup. We do purchase individual insurance for our travel teams, just like what was referenced there. So want to make sure that's out and that you guys know that. And then Jim, right? In terms of Little League, what Little League cares about most is that your process to pick travel teams is not biased towards travel programs. So they support players playing travel programs and all that, but like what I haven't read the whole rule book, but I've read a lot of it. They want to make sure that the process you use, like let's say, for example, a kid plays spring rec baseball, but doesn't play travel. But that kid also maybe plays piano, for example, doesn't do travel baseball. That kid is not disadvantaged in the process to select a summer district team. That's the thing you want to make sure you always get right, is you're not biased towards your travel kids for your summer district programs, anyway, that's a big part of the Little League rule.
And that's hard. Every league deals with that.
Yeah.
It's hard because a lot of the people are going to coach both of those teams.
Yeah,
right?
because what we want to support as a league is if you want to do rec travel, it's there for you. We have a selection process for teams. We try to take as many kids as we can. But for summer programs, specifically the district program, we never want to disadvantage a kid who wants to do something else with their time that's part of our rec program. So we don't want to require them to play travel to play in the summer. And that's the important part of Little League that they're trying to make sure you get right.
Well, I'm way confused.
Sure.
I thought you had to try out for travel and.
You do. There's the end of the year district tournament teams.
Right.
They're separate from the travel program,
Oh.
but they also try out for those teams. And that's actually and I don't know about the girls, but at least in the boys, that's Little League too,
Correct.
right? Whereas the travel team that we're talking about, Springfield Baseball Club, is separate from Little League entirely.
And the reason the May 15th date is there is that Little League doesn't want any Little League to start practicing with their district team on like January 1 and prepping for it. Like they don't want that. They want that to start post May 15th is when you can actually form like a district team and play for,
Right.
well, you see the Little League World Series, like in the summer, like that program doesn't start till after May 15th.
Do you know the affiliation of the boys and the girls Little League? Are they affiliated? They're totally separate?
We're separate, yeah.
'Cause I just know more about the boys
Yeah.
just from,
And that's why we
Having
have
boy
two
play and-
agreements, right?
Correct, yeah.
One's softball, one's little.
Yeah,
well, but even
veteran,
if the
facilities.
international is the same.
Oh, it's
still-
different
they're still-
facilities.
yeah. So I'll answer any other questions about softball, but wanted to say hello and just propose that one addition to 19B.
Okay.
Jim, the language.
Okay.
Just to be clear, there's not a separate nonprofit entity that's affiliated with you guys the way that we're talking about earlier.
There is not, yeah.
So Springfield Pride is part of Springfield?
Yeah, that's our rec travel program for
What
Springfield
do you mean
Little
by
League.
rec travel?
You have to play rec to play
Oh, I
travel.
got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because rec sometimes has the connotation of that's in-house,
But they,
not playing other leagues.
Yeah, you have to play for 12U, which is Little League. You have to be a part of Springfield Little League to play Springfield Pride. We've had some exceptions above that age at the junior level, but it's been pretty small.
Yeah. Well, we would
historically.
want to know, and we know we're throwing this to you today.
Yeah.
Like cold.
Yeah.
So you'll have leeway on this, certainly, but I would like to know what is best practice? Very much like the boys, is the travel league, should that really be a separate organization? And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know that internet, that organization dictates.
I don't know the answer. I mean, I think the value of them being together, I don't know the legal part of it, but the value is that if you have, first of all, like especially with the border thing's going to change that, but you're servicing your Little League kids first. We're able to prioritize Little League. I mean, travel only plays on Friday, Sunday. They would never take the spot of our traditional Little League places. So I think you do control that, like where a travel game or practice is never going to supersede anything that happens in the spring. So I think that's the value of having like us have control of basically the schedule. I mean, we're like the parent organization. And really the essence of Pride was created for kids who are looking for more who played for our Little League. So we're just trying to service those kids but never prioritizing them over what we did with Little
Does
League.
Pride have teams at every level?
This year we have 3 10U teams. So we did, like I said, we do our very best, like not to cut kids. So we actually have 3 10U teams, which is one, just softball's 2 birth years together. So we have three teams training as a travel team at 10U, and then we have 1 12U team this year. So we have four rec, I would call them rec travel teams. And the leagues they play in are rec travel. That's what we look for them.
And is there a reason why rec all-star teams or that other thing you mentioned, that they're not mentioned in any of these?
Well, that falls under Little League.
That falls on,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So can I play rec and travel at the same time?
Yeah, but in our organization, well, first of all, you would never have a rec game when there's a travel game because rec.
Well, I'm just saying, can I?
Oh, yeah,
Will you let
sure.
me? Okay.
You're too old.
Yeah.
Same thing, you're out of the age.
Can you run the first base?
Yeah, I think the thing is you
I
can't do
peaked at
travel
8.
without doing that. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, that was my real question.
That's correct. Yeah.
But that's also true of that all-star team, right?
The district team at the
The
end of the year.
district
Yeah,
team
yeah,
at the
yeah.
end of the year, they have to play rec in order to be on the
Correct.
district all-star team.
But they don't have to play travel, which is what,
Right.
and that's
They
the
don't
Little
have-
League
Right, that's the
requirement
thing
that I'm
you were
trying to
bringing up.
reference.
I
Yeah.
got you.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
Nice to meet you, Joe.
Yeah. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Yep. All right, you're good there? Joe, you ready?
Do you have a question? Do you have a question?
Right. Thank you for coming in.
Yes, thank you.
If you have a question,
No question. Yeah, no, thank you to everybody for showing up,
Thank you.
providing all the information you did.
Good evening.
Hi, Joy.
Happy New Year.
Well, let me get my bearings straight here.
My name is Joy Berge, and I live in Flowertown, and I speak this evening on behalf of the Township's Environmental Advisory Commission, or EAC. I am a member of the EAC. In 2019, the commissioners unanimously resolved to have Springfield's municipal operations use 100% renewable energy quickly as feasible, 2035 for electricity in our buildings, 2050 for building heat and the fleet. The commissioners at that point asked the EAC to develop a roadmap for how we might get there. And that's what I present to you this evening, the Energy Transition Plan, which is in all of your packets, in hopes that you will adopt it. So you adopted our Renewable Energy Transportation Plan in 2021 and its update in 2022. The Energy Transition Plan that we present this evening is broader and incorporates the transportation plan, and the new addition is providing suggested pathway to 100% renewable energy in our buildings. So I want to say, first of all, that Township staff has done a terrific job of helping the EAC to make sure that this plan is feasible. Mike has given it at least 2 detailed readings and made excellent suggestions. Ian, pardon?
We gave it away.
Meaning your actions next. Ian Hammer, our Public Works Director, as a result of reading this, has done some great research, reaching out to other experts and equipment manufacturers so we're all working together to make sure we get where we want to be. So we've already started down this pathway. As you know, we've started to electrify our fleet. We've done the building energy audits. So we're making good progress, saving money and avoiding pollution. And there's an informal task force of us working on the feasibility of putting solar panels on the roofs of these buildings. So that is a critical part of this plan. So I have a few more things to add, but let me pause and see if you have questions or comments. Right up.
My only comment question, this was brought up when we were exploring the solar plan is it was heavily dependent upon IRA funding.
Right,
Which at the time we questioned if there was a change in administration.
Right.
Would we see that IRA funding disappear?
so where do we stand with that? That's the Inflation Reduction Act that was passed by Congress in 2022, which basically gives 30% tax, no, 30% credit, a 30% rebate to a non-tax-paying entity for the cost of solar installation. So there are many different opinions on this. The prevailing opinion seems to be that it's going to take quite a while to pull that back if the Trump administration decides to do that. President Trump can't do that with the stroke of a pen. It has to go back through Congress. And there are lots of jobs being made across the country as a result of that. So our sense, and Ron Celentano, our local township solar expert, is on this. Our sense is that we have time to get this through if we work on it quickly. And I'm actually going to address part of that in comments. So yes, hopefully, and the experts think we have time to do that and get the 30% rebate.
I have a very blunt question. I don't know if it's for Julie or for Mike. Have there been any initiatives in terms of energy efficiency and renewable energy since I don't think I was on the board when the board voted to do the Ready for 100. Have there been anything that we took on in that vein that has been a loser?
I can't think of any. I mean, we did the energy audits and that's resulted in savings. We've started buying the hybrid vehicles and they realized savings for us, both in maintenance and fuel consumption. What else have we done?
You guys did the streetlights before
The
this was
streetlights
officially.
Before the.
But it was in the same
resolution, but
genre
yeah.
of action, right?
Yeah.
You
We did
know-
it to save energy. We did it, for maintenance purposes. So,
So any money we've spent on analysis or audits has paid off generally.
thus far, yeah.
Okay. All right, that's good. It's a good baseline.
So, and as far as other questions, I'm sorry, shall I keep a few more things to add?
I
Peter?
just, Joy, just want one point of clarification. So this document, along with our original document, it is riddled with the term renewable.
Mhm.
Okay. And I want to be clear that inclusive in that renewable concept is nuclear energy.
That's a great question. That's another one of these questions. Ask 100 people, get 100 answers. But what we're really talking about, let me be clear, is renewable energy is the renewable energy that we can generate on site. That's the ideal. And that means solar or geothermal, right? We're not going to put up wind turbines.
So that's in contradiction with on the glossary page 16, which talks about clean energy sources such as solar, wind, hydropower, and nuclear that do not directly emit greenhouse gases, the type of pollution that is warming the planet. This term is interchangeable with renewable energy.
Okay, so I need to fix that.
Go ahead.
So earlier in,
It sounds like that definition came right out of like a definition from like a federal government manual.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
you utilized
Yeah.
for this.
Earlier in the document, there's a much clearer statement of what we mean by renewable energy.
Yeah, I know that, yes.
All right, so we'll fix the glossary.
Okay. Well, let's just talk about the fix. Okay, so what you're proposing, what we're hoping to do here in the township is basically generate enough renewable energy ourselves to power ourselves.
Yep.
All of our houses, all of our cars, all of our municipal operations. We assume that we can generate enough power to do that within the township.
Now, let me clarify what the scope of this document is. This is just for municipal operations. And Resolution 1469, which was passed unanimously, back in 2019, stated specifically that that was the intent of the commissioners was, let's make our own house clean energy, renewable energy. For many reasons, we can't make the whole township 100% renewable. I mean, how would we do that? Would you mandate that? I don't think so.
I guess my concern is, in reading this document, I know I've been involved in this document since the get-go. It appears to me, is that what we're asking?
I'll clarify that, because that's not at all what this plan is intended to be. This is intended to be municipal operations.
And then again, the follow-up question, or the follow-up comment is that ever going to be possible?
What, for the whole township?
Yeah.
Better hope so. I mean, I've dedicated the last 25 years of my life to,
Right.
working on this kind of
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
but that's just, we'll talk about that some other time.
Okay.
Good, keep going. So I did want to speak to the timeliness of this request and asking you to do this month. You're all aware that we recently got a state grant for $50,000 to redo our energy audits and to make whatever fixes come out of that, again, without paying a cent of our money. That will let us cut our pollution further and save more energy expenses. So the township applied in December. Thank you, Mike Taylor, for jumping on this, to be part of a Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection program called Shared Energy Manager Program. So this is a DEP program. Now, you may recall that we applied for this back in 2023, but we weren't accepted, and we weren't given a reason at the time about why we weren't accepted. So, but as part of this little informal solar task force that a handful of us have been working on, we're looking at more resources that would be available to help us do the solar installation. And so I was in contact last month with DEP on behalf of the township to ask about other programs that might be available. So the energy specialist who runs this program, we spent 45 minutes on the phone. He asked me lots of good questions about what were we really trying to do. So I think I explained that to him. And then he strongly recommended that we reapply to the Shared Energy Manager Program. That's what Mike did a couple of weeks ago. And he also volunteered that the reason that we didn't get accepted in 2023 when we applied was because we lost points in the rubric that DEP uses to score applicants because we did not have an energy transition plan in place. So that's why this is timely. The guy from DEP volunteered that this program has reopened, there's new money, and he thinks, he can't guarantee, but he thinks that with an energy transition program in place, we would get accepted into this program. So what is the program? It is not money, it's not free dollars, but it's free time. It's about 40 hours of technical assistance from Wilson Engineering, who's a national firm. They have expertise in renewable energy, and DEP will pay them and they'll work for us for 40 hours. So again, DEP suggests that we use Wilson to put together an RFP. They can issue the RFP for us. They can look at the responses, score it for us, and they know all of the different state programs, what we're available, what we're not available for. So Jim and Brendan and Mike and Greg, the GISA, the Guaranteed Energy Savings thing, that was why I called DEP, and we got into this much broader plan. So anyway, so that's the timeliness of this request. I would never ask you to vote to adopt something if you weren't ready. But if you are ready, in my opinion, all things being equal, sooner the better for the township. So.
And so would it be accurate to say this is an updated and expanded version of our commitment to renewable energy? It's not a mandate on anything. It's not, this is exactly what we're going to do and we're going to spend money on.
Right.
It's committing And I think you even say, that annually we would revisit this
Mhm.
as technologies change. If the goals need to be tweaked, we do so.
Right. Which is the kind of thing Ian did. He went out and talked to a bunch of people and already has changed our mind about what,
Yeah.
next steps.
Okay, great. And what's the name of the program?
Shared Energy Manager Program,
Okay.
Department of Environmental Protection. John?
And I definitely am by no means suggesting that you rewrite the draft or incorporate this, but I do think that in talking about sort of the urgency of this adoption is the sense that future energy prices are going to be higher. And if you have discussions about bringing 3 Mile Island back online, that shows the demand for energy that we're experiencing in the country.
Right.
That is going to be made that much bigger with the advent of all these new technologies that are hyper energy consuming.
AI.
So the sooner that we can get sort of at least independent of the grid or independent of having to buy electricity in the marketplace, I think the better off we'll be at the township. Not have to succumb to sort of market prices, and market constraints. So yes, I think renewable energy is important. Your carbon emissions is important, but I also think just from a financial standpoint, it makes a ton of sense.
Absolutely. I mean,
So again, I would highlight that as one of the points that, why this makes sense for the township.
everything we've done, back to Jim's first question about, have we had a loser yet? Everything we've done and just about everything we're suggesting on net will cut pollution. That I think is a moral responsibility we have, and save us money. So, the sun shines for free once you pay for the panels.
Mm.
Jim?
Just a quick question. Since this is a Springfield Township Board of Commissioners plan, as opposed to a, like every house, like somebody brought up, I think. I think all you really need to do is go through here and look at every time you say Springfield Township, and some of them are the whole township and some of them are just this complex. And, at some point, maybe we can clarify that.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, we
That's all I'm
just need
saying
to maybe-
because Springfield Township is like four or five times on every page. And sometimes it refers to the geographic township,
Right,
including all the houses.
right.
And sometimes it just refers to us.
To municipal operations, which is what I'm intending. Do we just need to put a
Defining
state?
it Right up front.
Yeah.
When
Or
we
just-
refer to the township, we mean exclusively the
Right.
township municipal buildings or something.
Except that's not what the plan says. The plan sometimes uses Springfield Township as the whole township.
All right, I need to look at that again.
I just was gonna add that, I really appreciate the work of EAC and putting this all together. And I know, Mike and Ian have put a lot of work into it, which is great. And, there are a lot of unknowns, we're unsure of what's gonna happen at the federal level with rebates and things like that. But to have a good plan, a roadmap that'll get us to where we're going is hypercritical, because, at some point in time, we wanted this building that we're sitting in here. But the only way that came to fruition is by putting together a plan. And I'm sure the initial date that was supposed to open was probably one date, and then it probably became another date, because you don't know what's gonna happen. But, this building got built because there was a plan in place. And so, to have this is just incredibly valuable, and thank you for all the work on it.
Oh, my.
Brandon, we started in 1998 and we moved in 2017.
So the time is now always to get going.
Just a year shy, a day shy of 20 years. What was that, Andy Dufresne?
I just have one other question. You referred to us losing points because we didn't have a plan. Is
Yeah.
this it? Okay,
This is the plan.
Got it.
I
understood.
verified that with the
draft.
DEP guy. The
But George,
draft
let's
of the-
say municipal operations on the front, on the very front cover. So, I guess to avoid confusion, I recognize like through the plan, the 100% clean and renewable energy for the wider community may create some confusion, like the reference to those two focus points or goals.
Right.
So, if it focuses principally on the municipal operations, I think it is clear, when you do say Springfield Township, that it's limited to the municipal operations and not, Ed's backyard.
Maybe that talking about the broader community could be an appendix where it's like, okay, for the next aspirational, let's talk about how we would encourage the whole greater community to go for this.
Right. And the EAC, we tackle that in various ways. We do various seminars and webinars. How do we get the whole community to do this? I'm not ready to write that plan. I mean, that's.
No. I'm saying if there's points in here where you pointed out where it seems like it's talking about the wider community.
Right.
We have to get started, Joyce.
Guys are gonna be the death of me. Let's get this one through first.
Where's all the snow, by the way? What happened? You guys cancel the snow?
It's a bust.
Global warming.
Hmm,
I don't mean it.
I know.
So we need to make some changes. What would be the next steps? Do we need to come back next month with the changes?
I didn't hear any substantial changes that weren't just some
A little clarity.
language tweaking.
We're good.
You want to take a shot at that between now and Wednesday?
Wednesday, I can try to do that. I don't know if I'll get it to you before, Wednesday afternoon.
What's the downside? Do we have some kind of time crunch? that
Well,
affects that
okay.
membership?
Okay, so we're applying for the Shared Energy Manager Program. We need to I'd like us to check the box that says we have an energy transition plan in place. We did when we applied, but I talked to, Chris Naif was the guy at DEP I've been talking to, and I said, I think this can be approved in January by a board of commissioners. He said, good. I said, maybe not till February. He said, oh, that's okay. But you know what? I don't know that he's not the only person deciding on this, and I'd like us to dot every I and cross every T if possible.
So why don't you tell us if you feel like you can get this done before Wednesday with some notice? Is anyone objecting to voting on it Wednesday? If you're not ready, we'll do it in February.
Okay, so
Just to be clear, I only heard two kind of notations, one of which I agree with Mike, that it says municipal operations. I didn't have that confusion. And then, but if there's a couple tweaks in there, it's worth going through quickly. The only other addition it sounded like was just to emphasize the financial.
Yeah, that one glossary.
Right,
The glossary.
fix the glossary bit
Yeah.
and then additional,
right. The financial benefit
and then just to highlight the financial benefit, which I think is beneficial,
of ever rising fuel costs.
of savings,
Yeah.
energy savings. Right?
I think, okay, I push back on me, but I think the energy savings are pretty well documented.
Sure. I just picking up.
I
to-
think
to
they were
help
just
you
saying
to
mention
do
those.
something for
Right.
Wednesday.
Yeah, I think if you just take Jonathan's comment.
Right.
It says, in the wake of rising energy demand and rising energy.
It's just
costs.
highlighting the urgency of timing.
I just wanted to move along, that those were the couple of notations I heard, and you could just get that done for Wednesday and then.
Okay, I'll fix the glossary to take out nuclear. Financial benefits of avoiding ever rising fuel costs. And just make it clear that this applies to municipal operations only. Is that everything?
So,
And by the way, on the nuclear bit, I would think just to not mess with the governmental definition, potentially just put a note, this is the definition from wherever it came from.
I'll
and
just-
this is
I'll just,
As
right.
possible.
I'm just going to make, you know what, I think it's better to narrow it and make it consistent with the.
Yeah.
Which. Yeah. Good.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
I want to thank Bernadette Fox. I don't know if you know her name. She's township resident that lives in Erdenheim, and she doesn't want to be on the EAC because she doesn't want to be in any more meetings because she just retired. But she has been so instrumental. She's the one, I feed her information, and she's really put the document together. And we wouldn't have a document if it weren't for Bernadette. So
Great.
thank you to
Thank you,
her.
Bernadette.
I don't think she's on, no.
Maybe she'll watch the video on the replay.
Maybe she'll feel the aura of gratitude emanating from the
She's
building.
amazing. She's been amazing. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Joy.
So I'll send this to you, Mike, by Wednesday. You guys will get, I don't know how to do
I'll
that.
send it to him, I'll send it in electronic form.
Okay, we'll figure it out. Thank you.
We can review.
Yeah, if you just note
Yeah,
what
why
the
don't you
changes
just
are.
highlight
we
a
can-
couple changes, like use a yellow highlight changer.
There's some ideas. Okay.
It's only gonna be in a few spots.
Yeah.
Bernadette can do that.
You just talked her up. She can definitely do that, right?
Bernadette.
I keep waiting for her to
Bernadette.
tell me
Hoo, hoo, hoo.
never to call me. Okay, thank you all.
Thanks, Joy.
Thanks, Joy.
All right, we've covered 2 items. How's it feel?
I think the rest of it was quick.
Mike, is there anything pressing that you want to go first, or we just go through?
Let's go through
Can I
it.
ask one quick question?
Sure.
Just because I didn't see it in the book and I leave early. That fatal car crash on Northern Mill, anything ever, I know they put out a public request for information, but is there any,
No.
did they have any
without-
concerns about? I was
without
wondering why they
disclosing-
were soliciting.
Circumstances where there was a domestic fight between mother and son. He left in a hurry and speed was definitely a cause. Contributing factor.
And I bring it up
Maybe some
only
other-
because, well, it's a second fatal, again, circumstances of both, have been, very specific. And one was outside of our township on Valley Green, White Marsh, but, 2 roads that often come up in conversation in regards to traffic safety.
Instant.
Instead, yep. And it has long been my argument that we are going to see more and more car crashes as people continue to be distracted, racing to get here and there. And so, I just, it is concerning. Because that is a road that we've talked about many times, trying to somehow make it better. So I guess if there is specific circumstantial reasoning for the accident, would you make that more public?
I mean, I think they need to go through the data that they have and come up with an actual speed and, they can amend the press release. I mean, the crash on Stanton Avenue, somebody ran a red light and was broadsided. It was a stolen vehicle. So we know the causation there. The crash or pedestrian that was struck in White Marsh Township was a landscaper that was working in the roadway at dusk and wearing dark clothing. The driver didn't see them, was probably going too fast for the conditions. And then in this instance, there was, some emotion. There was somebody that was driving faster than the posted speed limit. Tragically lost his life, and we hit a tree.
There was no other car involved, right?
No other car in this one at all. I think they were just putting a reach out to see if anyone, can confirm what they suspect happened. They're running all the crash statistics now. They won't get a warrant for blood or anything like that because there's nobody to charge. But,
But we do get inquiries about that road and speeding.
yeah, and
Well-
within the last month, I think, maybe 2 months, one of the radar signs was out there, not far from the location. Trying to do some education.
You know if there's been any tickets specifically on that road?
I don't.
Just out of curiosity.
That's one of those areas that's tough to do speed enforcement because there's really not a good spot for them to do any timing.
Right. That's where the stupid radar thing comes
The
in,
radar
right? I
bill
mean,
comes into play, yeah. They have
are we
radar.
are we the only state?
The only state that I'm aware of does
Wow.
not allow local use of radar, has to be state police.
Is there like any sort of judgment they can make about like reckless driving? It's where it's not tied to speed, but by how they're driving, like.
If you're driving straight and fast,
Yeah, I mean-
I don't,
If there were witnesses, maybe, they could say, he was all over the road and whatever,
Yeah,
but
like
I,
crossing over the center line or,
Yeah,
I wonder if there's
Fix
just
them, blame.
any sort of thing that they can catch somebody on if they are driving too fast or recklessly through that. Yeah, I don't know what the answer is.
All right, ready? All right, parking regulations on Oak Road. I think we all talked about that. I guess, Beth, it seemed like the neighbors are in agreement with, seems like, at least from one resident?
It's from one, I've heard from others though.
Okay.
Yeah.
According to Officer Gross, the individual on the corner did email all of his neighbors in the cul-de-sac there, and they are looking forward to the change
Okay.
because of how narrow it is. You look at the one photo I included, it's almost like a driveway.
Yeah.
The road is that
Yeah.
narrow down there at the entrance, so.
Yeah.
I know our trash trucks have had trouble getting in and out of there on occasion, so.
Okay.
It's probably a welcome change. The signs are confusing that are there today.
Okay, all right, so we can vote on that Wednesday? All right. All right, Plan Commission, as you're all aware, Mr. Schaefer, moving out of district, so had to announce his, retirement from the Planning Commission. And, does the Planning Commission have alternates?
No.
No.
So we have to
Not yet.
advertise that position? Okay. Is that already up?
No, I wanted to talk to you folks. I didn't know if you had anybody in mind that you wanted to consider, or if you wanted to make an announcement.
I know we've typically always had a decent amount of applicants for the Planning Commission. Maybe just look at who we'd interviewed before and reach out to them if they want to reapply.
Oh, the last time we did it, Star Harbison was put on, we had 79 applicants. and
Yeah,
they
yeah.
reached back out. They were all great.
And there was one in particular that I think you really liked, that as I recall.
Yeah, there's some great, there was great candidates.
Yeah, and we put them on, what, J Tree or something?
Yeah.
Peter, you have any specific,
I'd grab him back.
yeah, okay.
She just took a dig at me. She's like, and one of them sitting right here.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I didn't
That's right.
care, but he's here anyways.
Yeah.
Wait, I think I might have voted for you.
Yeah.
I think I did.
Thank you.
But they were.
As far as you know.
It'd be great to reach out to the same individuals, because I think it was an unusually high number, was my
Yeah.
recollection.
Okay. All right, on to C, Mr. Manager's report.
Going back on that, do you want to leave George on the Building Code Board of Appeals? I had that under that same tab.
So it sounded like he was willing to stay until a
Willing to
replacement,
stay, yeah.
or,
He's willing to stay, has been involved in this kind of thing. It's just a matter of whether you feel comfortable leaving somebody who's not a township resident on there.
and as of now, that board has never acted, right? They almost acted and didn't.
They've met in the past, but they have not acted in recent years.
There's current board since we
It's the same three
okay.
that have met in the past.
Okay.
And they just haven't had occasion to meet in the last 5 years.
Wait, I thought this was the one that we reinstituted.
We did, because we just wanted to get it all buttoned up. 'cause
Okay.
Their terms at all expired.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. All right.
So he's got a term of service that ends next year.
Any
Just
objections
leave him on
to?
until then.
I would.
No objection.
Sounds good. Thank you, George.
All right, we'll make an announcement then. Managers report, you want me to get through this real quick?
Sure.
All right, so traffic safety, I tried to run through a few things there. Traymore Avenue, we did not forget about that, Ed. Sean was on vacation for a good majority of December. He tries to save his vacation up so that he's available during the school year and doesn't have much going on in the summer, so he took a lot of time in December, so use it or lose it. So we didn't get that done this month, but he and Ed are working on that now. So in his absence, Ed Gross was out and he was doing most of the, following up on most of the traffic issues that we had. One of the things I think Susie had brought up was there was a parking space in front of Locals Coffee that was creating a site obstruction. They looked at it, they agreed.
Yep.
So they're gonna modify that by adding another sign. And then, excuse me, in the spring, they're gonna paint that on the pavement as well to try and make sure that nobody does that. We had a spirited Facebook debate about the merits of speed humps. over the weekend, just before New Year's. Got a little bit involved in. Officer Gross reached out to the individual who started the thread and offered to meet with him. They haven't connected yet, but they're aware of it because I confirmed that, and we'll get back to Ed.
How does that work with plowing? Plowing the roads?
Not well.
I
Yeah,
was gonna say.
it rip them up.
That's one of the downsides too.
What was, I didn't see this post, but where was the location of the?
Bruce Road.
Which is a pretty mean road and would probably not be a good candidate for it anyway.
And just for knowledge sake, historically, has the township ever taken an official position on? Like, as that staff? position?
Not really.
I'd rather have plowed streets.
Yeah.
Plenty of township speed bumps though. They get their streets plowed.
And the only one I know about is Philadelphia, they do not.
I did not see this post, but because being contacted by a couple folks about asking about this, whether we have an official take, which I don't believe we did, confirm now. I did go down the path of reading the PennDOT's manual on speed calming devices and all the definitions of speed humps versus bumps, etc.
Pillows?
Cushions.
Pillows,
Cushions,
cushions,
pillows, there's all
humps,
this
bumps.
Those aren't pillows?
Just for
Bump
your
and bears.
knowledge, there's no, it didn't come out as a clear, hard and fast line either way. It
Mhm.
really did defer to us as electeds to decide, and that for the myth, I guess, of it stop. I say it's a myth because according to the PennDOT manual, it says it does not interfere with plow operations. I think that those who operate plows would feel differently. And so that's where that genesis and where that tension between whether it does or does not, does exist as per, and lovely midnight reading, everybody.
Exciting.
Safety pump definitions. Just out of curiosity, I went down that way.
Yeah.
To confirm that officially they say it doesn't, but I think we know from our staff that it wouldn't be. And so we.
Among other
Among other
downsides too.
Among other downsides, including maintenance, et cetera. Those are all reasons why I think no one's jumping on doing it in every situation. Moment.
Yeah. I, like, for a brief moment, thought about, well, maybe we should adopt a policy, right? Because it comes up every so often, but one, I don't think we have full agreement on this board. And two, commissioners always changing and, you know, you can always listen to an argument and change your mind. So I don't know. I mean,
I think as I was reading this and thinking about the topic cursorily, I would say it wasn't spend 1,000 hours on it, but that if we were to do that, the better thought would be maybe what I've been posed for sidewalks in the past, that it'd be more holistic and a consideration of where traffic would flow, because that seems to be also one of the challenges listed per the PennDOT manual of redirecting traffic and going off to side streets because people naturally tend to avoid those streets. And that topic has come up a lot when it comes to Bethlehem and Pike or any other type of road incursions. And so if we were to adopt a policy, I would think it'd have to be planned holistically and consider the data on traffic flow,
Yeah.
for example. Theoretically, but I mean, that would be quite an undertaking.
I think that's where you run into really hard to implement, because the places that do it, it's typically the squeaky wheels got it. Maybe the neighbors who had some connections are the loudest, and then similar streets that would want it wouldn't. Or you have every little side street that has them in the entire town, and then you're just bebopping around the entire town. Like,
Both those
there's like winners and losers
would be
to it.
unfair.
Yeah, look at Philly. I mean, they put them in one street and then they end up going on all the other streets.
Yeah.
So for those
Not
who
easy,
are
not easy.
interested in listening, I would just say those are some of the reasonings and thoughts to consider why it's not something that we jump on, and that it would be a task, a large task, because the outcomes of fairness would be difficult to adjudicate fairly.
And finally, on that topic, as part of the, annual reassignment of officers, now that we're up to our full complement, they did reassign a third officer into the traffic safety division. So now he and Ed can work together out on the street and do some more enforcement, particularly using the NRAD, which is pretty much a 2-person operation. So that started today, so it's good.
And Mike, in the spirit of us, say us, like the board as a collective, not being the best at promoting the things that we do. I might suggest that we promote the fact that we now have 3 traffic safety cops, as a way of just sort of, again, there's been a lot of discussion about, traffic safety concerns, and the board heard that, and we sought to address that through adding additional traffic safety cops. I'd promote that on the website.
Put in the newsletter.
Newsletter, yeah, absolutely. But I would definitely promote that big time.
Just a little update on utility work. We've got a couple of natural gas main replacement projects going on over in Erdenheim section of town. Pico's also just recently started one over in Ed's ward, portions of Willgrove Avenue, Ardmore, Eastern, Pleasant, New Orleans. So they'll all be tied up for a little bit. And of course, our friends at Aqua, they continue to replace the water lines. They're working over in the Wedgwood section right now. That'll be going on. In the case of the natural gas projects, we're going to look to take a fee in lieu of and then have those streets resurfaced in their entirety, part of our program later this year. And then Pico and Aqua are going to work together on Wedgwood to get that done because there's already section that was disturbed by Pico earlier this year for a natural gas project.
Like before the one on Avondale and Glenlow, will you guys be considering the stormwater?
Either like an under drain or a small storm inlet project. That's where that sump pump comes out, you have the water in the street. Also in the line of utility work, Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority has got a inflow and infiltration program going on that's going to result in the replacement of several sections, well, several hundred sections of sewer main and a number of manhole castings and manhole structures in the Winmore section. You'll recall last year they did an I&I study to try and understand, where some of the groundwater was coming from into their system that they were, we have to all pay to treat.
Get into my basement.
Yeah. Well, they're gonna they're gonna undertake a pretty big project to replace all of these pipes and manhole structures. So that bid gets open tomorrow and we'll have a better idea of who the contractor would be and what will happen after that. Unfortunately, some of the streets, particularly like Elston Drive, were just resurfaced. So the good news is they're gonna pay a pretty heavy degradation fee for that because they're so new, and they'll restore them and repave them, but it's just disappointing. We give them a list of things that we're going to do and ask them, hey, you got any work coming?
Right.
But we'll get by it.
Did that neighbor have any other contact as far as who initially?
No, I haven't heard from them, and but I did give them the John Butler's name.
So do they realize those savings? Like if you say, hey, we're doing the street in 2 months and they go, well, we have a project there. Will they see a savings so they don't have to repave?
Well, we'll defer, actually, we'll hold off on doing it, let them come in, and then we'll either take a fee in lieu of, and we'll incorporate it into our project the next year.
Okay.
Or if we're not ready to do it, like, we're not gonna adjust our paving schedule just because they're, if the street's only 10 years old and is in good shape and they're coming in and they're doing the main replacement.
Right.
We're not gonna accelerate that. It's just not good use of money, but they'll do the lane disturb. So it'll be a halfway. That's where you get the two-tone streets.
But let's say based on the schedule you gave them, they decide to come to a project. Would they realize any savings from that because they did accommodate when we were going to do it anyway?
No, but it would be more efficient for them. I mean, we'll come to an agreement on what the cost, to resurface it would be.
Okay.
And, we'll both make out the deal.
Okay, good to know.
Bethlehem Pike, there was a suggestion that, there was congestion and some backups at certain times of the day. Public Works, particularly our signal crew, along with traffic safety, is going to analyze all the intersections. They're all working as designed right now, but we're looking to see if we can improve the flow a little bit. One of the biggest intersections that we all are familiar with that's a bottleneck is the Beischer and College Avenue. When we redid the lane, the road diet, they incorporated that dedicated left turn lane, which is two different phases of
Mhm.
signal. So, there's an additional leg or wait time there. And one of the other things that we've noticed is that, and this came up from John McGettigan, our house electrician, who has a shop on Beischer Avenue. He said, I love this project. As soon as I come down Beischer Avenue, the signal turns for me right away. Well, that's the problem. It's making Bethlehem Pike be red. Bethlehem Pike should have the priority, so we're gonna make a suggestion that they put that on delay, particularly at like the rush hour, so that there's more green time on Bethlehem Pike. That'll, we think, will improve things dramatically.
You make John less happy?
Yeah, it'll make him less happy, but he understands, what's going on there.
Are you looking at Hall's Lane too? Awesome.
Yeah, we're gonna look at them all. They started at one end and they're working their way up. And they'll sit there, and watch it for probably like 45 minutes at different times of the day to try and figure out how many cars stack, how long it gets through. And we'll make some suggestions. And we notified PennDOT what we're doing, like that we're watching it, and they said, that's fine, that's great, we're happy to have the feedback.
And who's doing that? The cops or the?
Ross
the-
and
the-
Joe, Ross Pike and Joe Mellon are our signal guys.
Okay.
So they're out there watching it, and making sure that the timing is as intended. And then the traffic safety people and the patrol officers they're working in unison with one another.
Yeah.
They're not doing it in a vacuum.
Okay.
Because the police may see something, from one perspective and they may see it from another perspective.
And does PennDOT have to approve a change?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. They in the past have given us latitude to make an adjustment on our own. And then if it seems to be working, then we'll just report to them what we did and then we adjust the permit so that it matches
Okay.
what's going on out there.
So if it works, we don't expect them to override it.
No,
They'll basically do it.
No.
Okay.
So I have a question. At the intersections that we have the cameras and things, is on the cameras. On
They're not
some of
cameras,
these- what are they?
they're the opticons,
Okay.
for the emergency vehicles.
Okay, I thought we had more than that on some of those intersections.
Uh,
I thought we had, I thought.
Michael, I
I
don't
think
think,
they may have
I don't
added-
think he means on the signal. You mean on the ground?
No, on the signal.
Oh,
The
silver
it looks
ones.
like a camera.
Yeah, it does
They
look
have
like
gone to
a
some of the optical ones.
Yeah,
with
it's an
the
opticon.
new upgrades.
And
They're
wouldn't,
making
and
some.
wouldn't the optical ones like count the cars that are in queue to?
Now, all they do is they look at the ones that are controlled on the sides. They don't look at necessarily, they're looking at that left turn lane. They're not
Okay.
looking at the through lanes.
Okay,
They're looking at the left turn to see, okay, we got a car waiting to make a left. Now it'll start the countdown for the left turn. It'll go to yellow and then red for the main line, and then it'll allow the green ball for that, and then it'll count down, and then it'll go back.
and that's what they're talking about adjusting,
No, actually, they're looking at adjusting the ones on the side streets.
side streets, okay.
Yeah, we think that the center turn lanes are working properly. It's the ones on the side.
Are there different,
Yeah.
They take
Oh, yeah.
they're the optical cameras for that versus the old metal magnetic loops.
Loops,
in the
yeah,
street.
sure.
are there different, timing setups for different times of day as it stands now?
Believe there are, and that's one of the other things we're looking at for possible adjustment during the morning rush, afternoon rush. The weekdays that definitely have different traffic patterns than Saturdays and Sundays. But one of the things I made mention of it in here is Hawthorne Lane at certain times of the day. If you come out here, it'll turn right away. At other times of the day, morning rush, afternoon rush, you're gonna sit, you're gonna wait. And you could probably count down. Now, it feels like an eternity, but it's probably only like 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes or something. But the purpose is to get Paper Mill Road moving because for years it used to back up and we had a lot of rear end accidents. That has died down dramatically since we kept this signal and Cheltenham Avenue are talking in tandem.
Have they already, identified the times that they're focused on?
I don't know that, yeah, that's still a work in progress, but suffice it to say, AM, PM rush, and maybe even at noon, somewhere in that area. The towns at Pennybrook, we were scheduled to do an inspection of the trees today, but the weather sort of deferred that, so they'll have to reschedule. They did get their APTES permit today, it was issued, so there's gonna be a pre-construction meeting scheduled shortly. And I imagine that that'll give them the okay to start going.
Will they update the tree survey after this arborist does a walkthrough?
They will, not the physical plan, but they'll mark the trees that, either need to be pruned, removed, or saved, in one way or another in the field, so that they know what's going on.
How does that get translated to a record? Will they mark on the plan what they did?
This is on our
Well,
property.
this
not-
is
not-
on our
not on the-
property.
Not on the.
Yeah, not on theirs.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah, no, probably would not.
okay.
I gave you an update about the second piece of the Hanson Lloyd tract up on Willow Grove Avenue.
Mhm.
That's the smaller portion of the Squires Ridge, or I'm sorry, the Falcon Hill Estates development. Fox Lane Homes has got apparently an agreement on that piece of property and is pursuing a couple of variances from the zoning hearing board up there that would reduce the number of units that are approved right now from 216 age-restricted apartments to 43 age-restricted carriage homes. Seemed to be a better solution for everybody up there.
I am told, just so, for what it's worth, because it's almost comical, some of the nearby residents are still going to oppose it.
Oh, yeah, I'm not surprised. They wanted, from what I understand, they wanted the developer to cut it in half, down to, 20.
Yeah.
From 216 to 20.
216 to 20
The
for
old
free.
tenth, the 1/10 rule.
Yeah. So,
What year was that, agreement made? Do you know?
God, we lived that for forever. Amy Montgomery was our engineer. She was the engineer in Cheltenham as well at the time.
And my office represents Cheltenham as well. So we represent both, but because it's a rezone, I think I've been told a number of times that the neighbors feel that the developer of that property will never build the 216, and I guess the saying that's going around is call their bluff, which is what they said to
what
us,
happened
and
when-
they did call our bluff successfully.
Yeah. I think 15 years at least.
Yeah,
I would
something
say
like that.
15. I mean,
I remember working on a possible settlement agreement and I thought it was a done deal when they came into the room. It wasn't this room, it was the old
the
township
old
building.
township building.
Yeah, and said, don't work with them, call their bluff.
Yeah, Springfield was gonna take some of the density, we were never gonna get to the 216.
Oh, no, but
Springfield was gonna take some of the
it
density
was an
on our side.
unbelievably generous offer by Springfield.
Cheltenham was gonna have a different style of home. At the end of the day, there was gonna be far fewer than the 216, and now, Springfield side got developed for 34 homes, I guess it is.
I don't even know why, not many.
States.
And how many acres?
Almost like 34.
Yeah, we were gonna take 80.
Yeah, it's almost like 1 acre land.
Okay.
There's a lot of open space in there.
Mhm.
But more to come there. And then I give you a little update on the solar discussion that we had, Brendan and Jim and myself and Craig and Ian and Ron Celentano. We all talked about where do we go from here? And one of the things that came out of that is that shared energy manager grant that Joy inquired about, and that's what we're pursuing now. Maybe give us a little bit of free technical assistance to help put something together and at least get some pricing.
Sure.
Walnut Avenue Master Plan, there's a schedule in your books. We sent it off to DCNR to get their blessing on it, because they're giving us 20 or 50% of the cost of the
Mhm.
funding. And once they approve it, we'll run with it. And then I made a note of the two individuals from Public Works, John Corley and John McClinton, who retired on Friday. They were very appreciative. Watch that the Board of Commissioners gives all of our retirees, and a little luncheon that Ian had arranged, which was nice. And if you're okay with it, we'd like to honor them with a resolution next month. We write one up. We find it acceptable.
Sounds good.
They're both local, they both live in town, so I'm sure they'll be here. they had a good showing with their families.
And they both had collectively over 50 years of service in
Hmm.
the township, so
Yeah,
maybe they should get a tree. John and John tree.
John and John Tree.
John and John tree.
Yeah, we can do that if you want.
Or the tree, sorry.
Maybe two trees.
Would they like a carriage home in Cheltenham?
Carrot
Yeah.
Hilton.
Plant one there.
That's it.
All right, great. Thank you, Mike. Tab D, any questions on the bill listing?
Again, I would request that in the area of the aqua bills, that there be less emphasis on the date of the bill and more of a description as to the location of the
Under the memo.
Yeah.
yeah.
Mike, along those lines, it's not in the bill listing, but it's in the annual P and L as part of the loose. When it jumped out, I just wanted to ask what it was. So under police other compensation, I guess this is an expense. We budgeted for 125 and we spent almost 280.
Yeah,
Is that overtime?
that's not, well, I mean, you could consider it overtime. It's police detail pay.
Okay,
So it's.
but it's made up with other
Yeah,
income.
it's reimbursed
Yeah.
on the backside. It's,
So the income line item would also have exceeded that budget.
yes.
Yeah, okay,
Or a good portion of it should,
Yeah.
yes.
okay. Same question with the fitness program, same thing with much higher, income, much higher
You'll see it on both
expense.
sides. On the park and rec stuff, it's just a pass through.
Yeah, yeah,
If
okay,
it's popular, you'll see more of an expense because you're paying the instructors, but you also see higher revenues on the receipt side.
looked like there was a couple of programs that, were
Yeah.
3-4 times what we expected from a budgetary standpoint.
So in your next year's budget, we try and factor that in every year.
Mhm.
And then we'll increase that based upon the most recent 5-year period.
Mhm.
Things were kind of messed up over the last few years because of COVID. We didn't run anything in 20 and
Yeah.
21. So we didn't really have a good basis, or comfort level to
Mhm.
jump it dramatically. But yeah,
Okay,
great.
anything else on the bill listing? All right, tab E, Township Solicitor. Hello, Mr. Solicitor. Okay. The question there was for, and I think we've all talked about this in some capacity, having Andy as co-township solicitor
That's
in name, for this year. Any objections to that? Great. Andy's been great. We know how much he does and his qualifications, so we're happy to do that. All right, F is executive. We'll go to G. Zoning hearing, nothing on the docket. We'll go to H, land use agreements we already covered. We'll go to I, rec center, master plan. We didn't talk about that. Okay, we talked about an estimator to help us with those. So I guess we did get a recommendation right after you wrote this memo?
I did, yeah, we did. It
Okay.
came in late Friday and I said, yeah, get it into the books.
Yep, okay. So the second page of tab I is the actual recommendation from our architects. They recommended the lowest of the three, which were all sort of in the same ballpark. And you have some experience with Boyle, Mike?
So Boyle put in I'm familiar with Boyle. They've worked for a number of other municipalities and get very good reviews. Boyle also is a construction firm. Like they have a contracting business and they have the estimating part of it. The Delaware Valley Insurance Trust owns its own office building, and its first office building, they utilize Boyle for construction estimating and general contracting services. Like they served as the owner's rep. When they built their big office, they purchased another office building in Horsham, and they were going to renovate it, and they brought Boyle in to do some engineering services for them. And they said, well, we do this work as well. And they gave them a price that was better than any of the other prices that they had received. So they used them as the actual contractor. So familiar with them in both capacities. And I know Hatfield Township utilized them. They built their municipal building, and then when they went to build their, I'll call it their water park, but it's really their municipal pool. They brought Boyle in right away before they even hired an architect to help them with that. So they come highly recommended. So I would see no problem with it.
Okay.
But
It
they're
would-
they're also gonna comment on the repair and maintenance of the two existing buildings.
Correct. And that was something that we had asked them to do. Like, what is it gonna cost us to just keep these two buildings in service if we do nothing else?
Right.
You know, new roofs,
HVAC.
HVAC is another big
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
you know, all
Yeah.
those things.
And we need those final numbers as a matter of due diligence. They would do.
Yep,
And are we prepared to vote on that as early as Wednesday?
if you're okay with it.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay. All right, tab J, any questions on the recycling report? Okay. Tab K, energy,
Wait, it's the schedule one year, Wednesday, February is on.
Oh, yeah. Do you have yeah, that's good. Thanks, Susie, for mentioning that. Do you have a preference for either one when they want to present, the results of their
Oh.
data,
Wednesday.
data gathering?
you voting for Wednesday?
I would vote for Wednesday.
You want to split it up a little bit? Okay,
Wednesday usually has lately been, thank you, very short, and that might be a better day to.
Okay.
to host that.
I'm cool with that.
Are
Wednesday?
you looking for more time away from your family?
100%.
We have to wear ties. Are we on the summer clothing yet for Wednesdays? You want to start that earlier this year?
Yeah, I mean, we're on the down slope. It's getting lighter and lighter every day now, you know?
It is,
Okay.
it's coming, spring's coming.
Maybe we can get a Wednesday theme going. So maybe February we do a Valentine's Day get-ups. Wear your slinky
All
best.
pink.
Yeah, scratch that. Never mind. All right, energy transition, we covered, and that is the book. I know we have at least one executive item. Any other items people have before we go to executive?
We'll be back.
Okay, folks, if you're on Zoom, we are going to executive session. We'll not be back. So thank you for joining us this evening and see you next time.